Welcome to Invested Souls, the podcast where real estate expertise meets relationship growth.
And we're your hosts, the Flanagans. I'm Brad.
And I'm Jamie. This podcast is your chance to learn from our experiences and follow in our footsteps. Whether you're an entrepreneur, investor, or real estate professional, we've got the insights and strategies to help you elevate your wealth and achieve financial freedom.
But it's not just all about real estate. We believe that thriving in life means nurturing the relationships that matter most.
That's right. We'll be talking about how to balance your personal and professional life so you can create a fulfilling and prosperous future.
So join us on Invested Souls and let's grow together in wealth, relationships, and success.
Ready to elevate your life? Let's get started. Welcome to Invested Souls.
Jamie wasn't able to make it, so it's just the two of us today.
All righty.
And looks like you're a very accomplished gentleman hanging out there. Are you in Boulder?
I'm in Denver.
Oh, Denver proper. Okay, awesome. Wow. So KW is your main operation?
Yes, I'm the managing broker here at Keller Williams Urban Elite. We're located at 38th and Lowell in the Highlands in Northwest Denver.
Nice.
Got 127 licensees here.
Wow. I just relocated back to Omaha, Nebraska from Evergreen, Colorado. I embrace that. I know.
You
right?
go from Evergreen to Nebraska, man.
Well, I have two kiddos, and we were at the top of a mountain right off of Floyd Hill. And those kids just didn't have the neighborhood atmosphere that we wanted for them. And then I run a mortgage branch out of Omaha and needed a little bit more close shepherding. So came in, we grew substantially with all the market shift that had taken place. And so just being present every day and kind of running things from a remote standpoint wasn't as efficient as I had hoped it would be. So reset. Home base has always been Omaha. So came back to be a little bit more present on this side of things.
Well, I can understand.
Yeah, certainly miss that.
Kids are a great investment.
Right?
Yeah, they need to be invested in.
I'll get it.
The fact that they might grow up to be Huskers.
Never know. I know my daughter wants to get out to Arizona. That's another locale that we have resided, and my son, he misses it already. We're avid ski bums, so we've got a couple vacation rentals in the Winter Park area, so we still get up there, and it's just going to be tougher not being able to just take the weekend and go to the mountain or take off early one weekday when it's nice and no lines at the lifts, you know?
Yeah, well, so I just make that comment about the Huskers. So if you can see behind me is photograph of Folsom Field in Boulder, and then the Buffaloes up in the window.
Okay, yeah, love that. See, I'm not a Husker, and I'm not even a Nebraskan from birth. I was a transplant, and so was my wife. So we love it. We believe that it's a pretty safe and got a good economy, but I don't think we've only been to maybe one Husker game since we've been here in past 12, 15 years, something like that.
Oh, wow.
But I do love Boulder. I mean, I love everything about Colorado, quite honestly. So what's that medal you got in the background there?
That's the George Norland Award given to, it's the highest award that can be given to an alumnus of CU Boulder.
Wow, okay.
Somebody that's made good use of their degree for professionally and to the community, and a positive reflection upon the university.
Okay. I would love for my daughter to tour that when in her pursuits of college. I love driving through there. And then is it 6 that you go up into the mountains from Boulder?
Mm-hmm.
And you see like the rock climbing and you got the streams running down. So beautiful.
Yeah, the Flatirons there are iconic. And then you go up the road towards Netherland and up the canyon. It's a beautiful ride and a nice community up there.
My favorite barbecue place is up in Netherland.
There you go.
So you Colorado native?
I am.
Okay. And I saw quite a few different things, maybe a bar restaurant. Seems like you're rather diverse in your pursue?
Well, it's been focused with the same base of operations, basically being this where we're located now.
Yeah.
I've been on this site since 2001, and as the Lucero Financial Group, and I've done real estate, mortgage, tax, and accounting work through the years.
Wow.
In the process, and assembled the property that where we're located at now. And then I sold the property to Trammell Crow Residential with the option to buy back the commercial condominium of the new development. And so here, as we developed it, I joined Keller Williams in the process, became a part owner of the franchise. So we have our base of operations here. Keller is our primary tenant, and there's another 14 tenants in addition to them. But anyway, so I took the property here and parlayed it into a commercial condominium on a mixed use is the word I'm looking for. Mixed use development, because there's five floors of apartments now above us.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I hope for our municipality and like the Omaha market. They're such in a growth mode. I would love to see more of that type mixed use properties. We are seeing it in some of the little smaller towns, which are or the downtown areas of some of like the suburbs, but they're still in such an infancy because I grew up in Chicago. My wife grew up in Minneapolis. We're used to seeing a lot more diversity in real estate purposes, more intricate business structures, but we're in the growth mode. You're seeing a ton of construction out this way. So is commercial like a strong aspect for you, or is residential something that
Well, I'm an old school kind of guy, a generalist.
okay.
I'm more client driven than product driven. So through the years, as I've grown professionally, as my clients have grown, the clients mix has grown. So I'm a residential and a commercial investor and development oriented kind of broker. So residential, then whatever words they want to do, but I'm a generalist in that regard. So old school, client driven.
Love that. And it's coming back to what I would say is old school. I keep hearing this, bring it back to the basics. And I'm like, why did we ever leave the basics? Like,
Yeah.
I've always been a proponent of in-person consultations and sit down and understand the goals and the needs, and then more solutions oriented. So I probably refer to your version of generalist for me as like opportunist or a capitalist at the end of the day. Like that's what has grown this society
Yeah.
the way it
Well,
is.
just right now, I'm working with the client who is a tax client that I've been doing tax work for her for a number of years. And she finally decided to buy a home, sell her home, buy a home. So I'm her listing agent on that. I'm her buying agent on the other side. And then we're doing a reverse mortgage for her in the process, or may end up converting her to another type of mortgage. But anyway, so there's three hats that I'm wearing, in relation to helping her out.
Right. Multifaceted. And all those other experiences bring you different perspective that they can't get even if they were to go to somebody different for each one of those needs.
So I had to yesterday do a tax forecast for her if she were to cash out on a 457 plan that she has in order to get down payment, because we hadn't sold her house yet.
Wow.
So we're looking at alternative methods. So anyway, it's a lot easier when you can do it, just sitting working with the client across the desk rather than having to put a call into your lender, putting the call into the accountant, but
Try to get everybody on the same page and just hoping that they have the knowledge or the understanding to coordinate what ultimately impacts the client in the best possible way. So love that.
So that's where it is. I've been trying to be a one-stop shop financial advisor.
That's beautiful. Do you broker then as on the mortgage or the finance space? Is it broker
Yeah.
model? Okay.
Yeah, it's mostly been driven by my transactions rather than really to the general public.
Right.
And particularly because of the development of this project, I've been primarily focused on getting tenants in to the space. And then within getting tenants into the space, I became a space occupier by becoming a bar owner and becoming an ice cream shop owner. They were not necessarily the best investments for me personally, but anyway, we finally got some new tenants for it's a food hall. So if you think opening our restaurant is a challenge, then try to open 5 of them at the same time. So 5 restaurants anyway, with 1 bar. So that's a challenge.
It's been, I actually, the first time that I was exposed, I guess you could say, to that model was out in Fort Collins. No. Colorado Springs. They turned a school into one of those food halls. I don't know if you've been out that way, but
Wow.
and now I saw the one that popped up in Golden, kind of near
Yeah.
Red Rocks.
Yeah.
So love it. I'm another feature that I was hoping would make its way east for us. So
Yeah, well, for you with kids dropping into that type of environment, one kid could have one kind of food, another could have something else, and your wife could have something else. So it can work out good.
sure can. Our podcast here is so it's invested soul. So it's a combination of the family, the relationship, and truly the partnership type models compounded with investments or real estate, mostly entrepreneurship. And so you mentioned that you have this partnership or your co-owner in like the broker model. What do you think, and I don't know how much of your business or your investments are partnerships. Do you have any insights as to what you think attributes to a successful partnership, or what's brought you the success having those businesses in partnership?
Well, the Keller Williams model is is a partnership model because they want to bring a minimum of 6 brokers together. And then these 6 brokers do some recruitment to try to bring up to 10 other brokers in to help grow the critical mass of an office. And so you try to get some diversity in product types, diversity in market served, that type of thing in the formation of an office. So you look for some commercial specialists, you look for some residential, you look for investment, luxury property, that type of thing in building a Keller office.
Makes sense. Yeah. You get different perspectives, and I call it a mastermind. So
Yeah.
it kind of, yeah, you go into the room, everybody has their one objective or their perspective on it. And then that mastermind, that conversation then refines typically the ideas into something executable that can serve a broader audience more effectively, typically, because you got everybody giving their input. I love that.
Yeah. So that's how a partnership type of thing there. And then with the real estate here, I've had my ex-wife, that has been my partner in relation to building what we've done with our real estate investment with a shopping center here
Yeah.
on the commercial space.
That's nice when they're aligned. I mean, it's the base is always real estate, but then there's so many different opportunities and different ways to execute that can make it successful, but also keep it interesting. It's constantly changing, especially right now.
Yeah.
I can only imagine as a broker, the inundation of communication regarding the NAR settlement buzzwords. Care to comment on that at all?
Yeah. So I didn't quite understand what you're saying there as far as.
Are you getting a lot of correspondence or a lot of people reaching out and asking for guidance on what to do with this new buyer?
That's the good thing about the Keller system is that we stay as a company on top of those types of things, and the communications that we have from our team meetings to intranet communications to speakers to events with the recent NAR settlement. That's created a whole tumult in the industry, but we're navigating it okay. And with the systems we have in place, Keller's as good as any company or better than any companies, at getting the word out and how to be able to navigate the shifts in the marketplace. And those are the kind of words that we use, the shift.
Absolutely. Yeah. Love
Yeah.
that book. I love all of Keller's books, actually, but the one thing's probably one I come back to the most.
Yeah.
And if you don't mind, because I get a lot of varying opinions specifically about this new buyer agent commission. Do you see the listing broker still collecting a gross amount and then paying out the other, or do you think it should be this whole seller separate payment credited at closing kind of a situation?
I don't know how that we got to this situation exactly. And, it seems to me that the jury or the judge or whoever it is that was reviewing this thing didn't really understand what was going on. But the model of a shared commission is the most practical, necessary type of thing. I mean, whether you want to call it seller proceeds or you want to call it transaction proceeds, but a buyer's agent role and compensation for a buyer's agent role, no matter what label you put to it as a selling agent or whatever. Anyway, that agent that's working with the buyer works very hard. They're very valuable and very necessary and should be compensated for work that they do as it relates to working with the buyers. And nowhere in here have you said that, a buyer's agent shouldn't be compensated. Fannie, Freddie, appraisals, things like that still recognize the compensation for that to be included in a sales price. So we just have to package it differently, use a little bit different terminology, but all in all, even if the seller does not want to offer a co-op, then the buyer's agent submits an offer that will include their fee that they have negotiated with their buyer. And that fee does not have to be dependent upon what the seller is offering. And you come up with the price that includes the fee. Either the seller had it in the price that they had initially considered to sell it for, or you change it to another price that will incorporate the buyer's agent fee to it. So, it's kind of that we use in the commercial real estate world quite a bit because we don't have stated offered co-ops there. And whenever we go out on a commercial deal, we need to determine what the compensation, if anything, that the seller is offering. So it adds another layer, as if we didn't needed another one, but another layer to the transaction. But I think it unfortunately may result in, and I don't know if we've seen the trend necessarily, but a most common type of compensation might have been like at a 2.8. And I think you might see a trend to go into a lower amount, possibly at a 2.5, for example. I mean, it just may happen that way because the buyer, and from that standpoint, maybe the lawsuit might be, advantageous to buyers, but there might be a little bit less. But on the other hand, the seller may be making up that marginal difference between a 2.8 and a 2.5. So either way, the cost is going to be there. So anyway, so that's my take on all of that.
I do see a lot of unintended consequences from it. Like a buyer is now, based on headlines, potentially going to try to go to the listing agent, not realizing that their interests aren't protected. And I think that's the area that gets overlooked because they're just talking about some flat fee type costs that they want to get them to save, but there's so much more that goes into a real estate transaction that requires extra assistance and help and coverage and advice because shoot, when you're a atypical buyer and you're only doing this, a couple times a decade at most, you don't know about things. And then you get into a market like Colorado where maybe not so much in the metropolitan area, but definitely as you spread out, what do you got? Water rights, mineral rights, so many other different aspects of the transaction that how does the average consumer navigate it? Right now, we've got so many storms across the country. Like if you're an unrepresented buyer and you went with the lowest bidder for your loan and cut out a buyer's agent, you're totally on your own to navigate this house that's damn near knocked down because of the storms that we've had all over the country. So it's a wild, wild world. And then anytime the government steps in, they're creating a new form, a new disclosure, and then the company's got to have their own too, potentially to based on their interpretation. So now all these new forms make it more confusing. Every
Yeah.
time I'm disclosing or sharing or walking a customer through like a closing disclosure, I'm like, and as if 2 pages wasn't enough, here's a third one just to show you those same numbers that were itemized on page 2 and summarized on page 1. And it becomes overwhelming when the intent was really to clarify and simplify. It's just somebody else in an ivory tower, maybe somewhere not down at the street level, working in the transaction, attempting to come up with their version of what's the right way.
Yeah. Well, the thing that's interesting now is that with this whole lawsuit type of thing too, is that there was probably greater transparency with the way the system was, where you have an upfront offer on compensation to the other broker rather than doing it now behind the curtain type of thing and then having to talk about it with a broker that's representing a buyer.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, it gives, I think, too much emphasis on commissions rather than just on the transaction. And anyway, so it's really unfortunate. That's why I say I don't understand how it got to this point with that type of thing.
It could be. A lot of people speculate that it was like a money grab on the legal side where you saw an opportunity and then it just gets distracted when it becomes as big as it did. It's kind of like me going and saying, I'm going to sue the butcher because he didn't tell me how much he paid for the meat that he bought from the farm.
Yeah. So, but it'll be interesting as to how it does affect, as we go through. It's going to be just more of a challenge for us as to how we explain things to buyers and to sellers and the like. I have a buyer coming in from another state that I'm going to show properties on, and ironically in the Evergreen area, I'll now have to be sending him out buyer agency agreements and the like before he even gets here for him to review before
Right.
I can get him out and show him these properties.
Love that.
Yeah, it's probably good from that standpoint, but this guy doesn't know me necessarily from Adam. All he has is one conversation with me, and here it is. I'm trying to bind him to a 6-8 page contract, and and he's coming into a new state, and in a lawsuit environment. How do you build rapport and trust? All
Certainly
of that
is tough.
in a short period of time.
Right. Well, and it's overlooked the overhead and the investment that the real estate professional puts into a client with absolutely no guarantee of any revenue at any point. So, and now we're forced to put these disclosures in place. So definitely a new dynamic to have to navigate, and
That's
looking
it.
forward to it because I think the professionals such as yourself, it does step up or raise the bar for the real estate professional. So it may weed out those who weren't doing it the right way or weren't invested in this as a full-time, taking the business very seriously type of professional. That's the silver lining, I suppose.
Yeah, so that's where I come back to even our Keller system. It's just to how we stay on top of them. We try to keep, our brokers so aware of what's going on in the industry and the opportunities for them to be able to adjust to the shifts and have all the knowledge that can be shared with them. Although these are all new, this is new territory that we're exploring now with this, but nevertheless, we've out exploring it in the leadership side to be able to get the information and whatever level, whatever the issue that is affecting us in the industry, we're on top of it to be able to get it to the agents.
Have you seen a increase in open-mindedness from the individual agent to consider their options as far as recruiting or just maybe inbound contact? Hey, do you have time to sit down and share with me what your brokerage has to offer kind of conversations?
Yes, no, and it gives us, and that's the kind of message that we have to get out as we're out recruiting for the office is the fact that we're right on the cutting edge. We have our fingers on the pulse of what's going on in the industry, that we have the systems in place, the chain of command, the networking, the technology to be able to get that information to the agent so that they can do their job.
To the investors out there, do you have any insights to share, being that you're experienced in both representing them and being one, with the market, the climate that we have today, all this new opportunities coming around?
Yeah, it's been an interesting time. We had in the course of the last particularly 3 years, from 22 to now, the inflation that we had to deal with in 22 and the effects that it had. But we had an unprecedented type of situation that occurred before that with COVID, and how you respond to the economic challenges that we had with COVID. And so right after COVID hit in 20, and we had two economic stimuluses that occurred towards the end of the Trump administration. And then Biden gets in and we have another stimulus package that came out. And unfortunately, I think the combination of the three is what prompted what occurred to us in 22. And we had all of this glut of money that hit the economy. And this wasn't just here locally, but was internationally. And the U.S. is not alone in having to deal with some of the issues that were created because of that. And so I think, unfortunately, we created that type of situation that in turn did infect prices on so many different products. But real estate got obviously affected too. We had some price drops, and then interest rates going up, cap rates going up as it relates to investment real estate, because there's a pretty significant correlation between interest rates and what the cap rate is that you use for analysis of a piece of investment real estate.
Right.
And, it's one of those things where you just kind of have to bear down and bear with it, either ride the waves with it, and then hopefully you're in a cash position and you might be able to take advantage of some situations that are being allocated to it. But if you're in a cash position, then you're not having to borrow. And so then you're not having to necessarily pay some of those higher interest rates. So, but, it's relative, the ebb and the flow, with it. But so if the interest rates go up, then some of the prices of real estate has to come down to offset what you're having to pay for, because you don't have necessarily cash flow to do. So it's, ultimately gets down to the individual situation, and then being in the right place at the right time, with the right factors to help determine whether the investment is going to bear out.
And having a good network and people that you can turn to for, well, if I was to come to you and say, hey, I'm always looking in the Colorado market, I'm going to have a much better chance of finding an opportunity because we are connected, versus just trying to sit behind a desk and a keyboard and find them myself. It's a little more difficult to come across on our own compared to the opportunity of having somebody in the marketplace that's got their finger on the pulse of it every single day.
Yeah.
Do you look at any markets outside of the Colorado area, or are you pretty well focused on just the Colorado market when it comes to like investments and things like that?
I'm pretty much in Colorado, although I do have an associate that I am a mentor to, that I work with out of the Houston area in Texas.
Wow, nice.
And
I love
trying to
Colorado.
learn a little bit something about that. And I may end up even getting licensed in Texas to be able to be more valuable
Nice.
to the associate there. And I
Okay.
have other relatives in Texas as well, but that's the primary.
As I wrap, I just wanted to see if you had any insight as to like, if there's investors that are considering to go outside of the market that they're currently in, and they're not presently or haven't evaluated Colorado or maybe the Denver and the foothills regions, any tips or encouragement as to why somebody could look there, whether it's a long-term, short-term, mid-term, commercial, you name it, whatever you think is.
Yeah, some of the smaller city submarkets of the state, there's still some opportunities in Colorado. There have been a lot of interest in Trinidad. There've been Pueblo. There's things that are tricky as it relates to some of the mountain communities, as far as the desire to get affordable housing in there and the need for housing into these communities to help support the skiing and the other parts of recreation to it. I mean, Steamboat just had an interesting situation where they had hundreds of acres that were donated to the city to help address the affordable housing issue. And then as they were trying to get rezoned, the city of Steamboat shot the ideas down. So that makes it an interesting dynamic, but that's an aside from what your question was saying. But there are, I think, opportunities still in mountain areas. I just finished spending a couple of days of golf up in the Winter Park area, Granby and Tambernash, a couple of golf courses up there. And man, that area has just grown and continues to grow.
Yeah.
And so there's opportunities in those areas. And then some of that is particularly in housing, and the interval housing comes into play, with it. Outside of Colorado, I really can't comment too much. I've had clients that have done some out-of-state investment, and it's kind of difficult, I think, to pick a state and to do something in without it being on your beaten path and you have some other type of knowledge of that particular market, to have property managers in place, to have people can help you rent the properties. I mean, it's tough to be an absentee landlord when you're out of state and doing that. So you really have to put other portions of your infrastructure in place as far as how you manage it.
Lots of due diligence goes into getting all those resources lined up.
So you got to make your money on the buy for sure on something like that to be able to cover the layers, because the property management piece of it is going to be more expensive.
Right. Well, and the time allocation just alone to get into something like that, depending on where you are and where the investor is in their journey. One thing, if our listeners out there could help you with, that you would love their recommendation or referral for.
That I would like referral.
Yeah. If there's somebody looking for a property, you want them to reach out to you. Maybe what's your number, like a goal moving forward into 2025 as we close out 2024, or looking to grow the brokerage, just get more clients to serve directly in the real estate transaction, commercial partners, those kinds of things.
Yeah, well, the key to it for me in relation to serving them is, it's going back to the model of the experience and the knowledge that I bring to the table and being able to help them. It can do a tax analysis. We explore as to whether they like multifamily, whether they like retail, whether they like industrial, be able to go to the different product types, show what these similarities are and what the differences are, and we kind of gauge as to what seems to fit the personality, and then the financial situation, and then what the tax projections are, and what their objective is, and what it is that they're investing in. Is it a shorter term type of thing, 2-3 years type of turnaround? Is it meant to be longer term? What is it? How does it fit into the estate planning that they may have? What stage in life?
Not every day you run into somebody that could serve as comprehensively as you can. So just at the end of the day, I think any investor that's looking to grow, especially out in the Colorado market, could benefit from a connection. So
so that's the type of thing that happens for me in relation to working with the client. All right, well, this is going to do this. Well, in 3 years, then we can do a 1031 exchange and get you into something else and get you to, what is the objective short term? Anyway.
Yeah. Oh, that's outstanding. I greatly appreciate you taking the time out to share your insights. No doubt you are a busy man. Anything for me? Any questions? Anything I can help you with?
I'll have to look more into what it is that you guys offer and see what it is that I can tap you with. And
we're heavy from the Nebraska, Colorado, and Arizona markets. So, just earlier today, I was talking with a gentleman who's an agent and a investor flipper out in the Grand Junction market. Again, I participate in Colorado more. So we've shifted from just short-term to mid-term or long-term furnished rentals. So I've got a place in the Inn at Silver Creek over there in Granby, right by the ranch. I've been looking at some of the newer development that they have over there. And then I'm down in downtown Winter Park as well. If you know Ken Bonish, he's the only agent that I know up in the Winter Park region. And then outside of that, we like Arizona. My wife likes it hot. I like the skiing. My son loves the skiing. So winter parks are go-to. I love that you were just there. I'm very jealous, actually.
Oh yeah, I got
Anytime I
to,
get the chance, I'm going to Colorado.
well, I got to play the Pole Creek Golf Course up there, and we stayed at Eagle Ridge Townhome Community, I think is what it's called,
Beautiful.
and across the street from Grand Elk, I believe, and then Granby Ranch. The other two golf courses are right there.
Yep. It's a
So,
beautiful time of the year, too.
oh, it was outstanding. We were playing in the high 70s, and it was great.
Yep.
Well, it was 95 or so or more here in Denver.
Right. Anybody I talked to that was in Denver like a week ago, they're like, I'm just going up into the mountains so I can get cooler. Got a
Yeah.
nice little heat wave here.
Yeah.
But yeah, outside of that, my wife and I just we do a lot of consulting for investors with where we sprinkle in again that relationship side. I love that you said you are working in partnership maybe with an ex-spouse of yours. Tells me that you had some core strengths there that you could still communicate effectively, maybe.
Oh, yeah. The one other area that actually I am exploring and on right now, investment in Mexico, and
Okay.
looking at particularly some of the beach communities,
Okay.
some areas there. So
Like Puerto Vallarta is like where I talk to a lot of people who are interested in investing from the States. I love the Cancun and the Cabo side, but I need to get over to what's that, the Pacific Coast side?
yeah, well, that's what Cabo is, the Pacific side. And I had a timeshare in Cabo and the Diamante community. And I just got notice yesterday that the whole timeshare community had been sold to another operator. And Diamante there is more of a residential community and golf community and multi-million-dollar homes with some millionaires, billionaires that are probably buying in that area with two golf courses and a third one being built, and they have a smaller course too, so it's 4 golf courses all in this area.
Wow.
The other areas is down on the Caribbean side and the Gulf side, down towards Cancun, but Cancun has just grown so much also, and it's a mini Vegas. I don't even not mini, and I think it probably is right with Vegas, on
Yeah.
it. And that's not quite what I personally look for in my vacation. So you got to try to find some other places that you can get started on sooner, at the ground floor level before they get too big.
Right. Get in there early and reap
Yeah.
the rewards. It just takes a little bit more risk, but that's why there's that no risk, no reward comment that's out there sometimes.
Yeah. Now, and those are the kinds of things I'm going to be personally exploring, not only for myself, but for other clients. I was going to be hosting an investment workshop, for a focus on Mexico. Unfortunately, the logistics didn't pan out, and so we ended up canceling it. But yeah, looking at that type of thing.
Yeah. Well, if you get that resumed, I would love to participate in some way, shape, or form and to attend. So
Yeah.
always, I love to invest where I'm going to utilize it personally. So granted, I can't get to Mexico direct flight at this from the Omaha market. It's one stop away, and it's definitely not the worst travel. So I'd happily head down there if I needed to attend to something.
Yeah, well, as I look at this Zoom thing here, and my red cap there in the background comes into focus, but I wanted to. So my cap says "Make America Mexico Again."
Oh my gosh.
Friends of mine that were in Mexico brought this for me, and so wanted to bring that up. It's something as it relates to my affinity towards Mexico, I guess.
Yeah, it's overlooked. Everybody wants to go to like Hawaii or something. I'm like, I don't need that 12-hour plane ride. Just give me the 4-hour trip, 3-hour trip, whatever it is to go to Mexico. And I think economically, it's still much more affordable compared to the other.
And there's some other towns within the country. I mean, not everybody is a multi-million-dollar investor to go, build a multifamily condo project or whatever, but there's simpler types of investment. The Chapala area outside of Guadalajara,
Mm-hmm.
San Miguel de Allende. I'm going to look at a golf course community in San Luis Potosí. And then there's another town called Querétaro that is a pretty progressive, vibrant town. And so anyway, there's some opportunities there.
Right. No, definitely outside of the most common areas. First time I ever went to Guadalajara was last year. And I was like, why haven't I been coming here more?
Yeah.
It's so beautiful. And then so much culture and history that goes along with it that yeah, you never get bored.
No, that's it. And, I'm at the stage in my career too, where it is, I'm looking to slow down a little bit and travel a little bit more and explore, but I still need to create some passive forms of income as well.
Yeah.
Just not in having to be on it daily and have a little bit more. Yeah. The key to that is passive. So
Right.
But on the other hand, you got to keep yourself to some degree active as well. So you got to find that right balance.
Finding that thing that doesn't make it feel like work.
Right.
I tell people I would do this even if ideally I'm doing something so that I can fund the ability to have these conversations and teach or help the investors because it is so hard. I'm sure you've seen it, especially when you're doing the financing side of it. And it's not even possible for some families that are on a six-figure household income to accomplish their goals anymore because of the debt servicing costs, because of the rise in cost of taxes and insurance. It's one of the reasons that I'm a huge advocate of Colorado is I think despite the most recent tax raise, it did have a few people up in arms, but comparatively, I mean, here, $1 million home in Omaha, Nebraska, Douglas County, Sarpy County region is going to be $30,000 a year tax bill. In Colorado, it could be $8,000. So,
yeah. Now you just got to be able to acquaint yourself with the structure of where you're at for it, So some states don't have income tax, but they make up for it in property tax.
there you go.
So, whether it's in gas tax, it just depends.
You get it somewhere. Yeah.
So as I study stuff in Mexico a lot more, there's going to be a lot of things I'm going to have to be working on. But the fundamental things are still the same. I mean, you're going to need to know what you're buying, what your rent's potentially going to be, and what you're buying. What's the upside? Is there a market for resale? How does that equate to a cash on cash type of investment? How are you going to be able to, is the banking system stable for you? How much do your American accounts, transfer, or can they be used? Then learning the exchange rates.
Right.
So that's a lot of other variables that come into play. But
True.
I think it's going to be fun to learn and give me a little more intellectual stimulation that way.
Definitely. I'm going to have to, I hope that we can stay connected in regards to that. And I do have a few contacts down there. So that never hurts. I like to consider myself a connector. So if I have the opportunity to connect you with somebody who's down there that can give you even more insights.
Absolutely. I'm all ears, and you obviously know how to connect with me as far as email or phone or whatever. So
yeah, fantastic. Well, I'm sure you've got plenty to get to today, sir.
All righty. Well, sure enough, great talking to you.
You too, Gene.
All right. Take care.
Bye-bye. Thanks for tuning in to Invested Souls.
We hope you found our insights valuable and feel inspired to elevate your real estate and relationship goals.
If you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. Your feedback means a lot to us.
Follow us on social media for more tips and updates, or visit bradandjamieflanagan.com. And to find out more about our Real Estate Wealth Accelerator, don't hesitate to reach out.
Until next time, keep investing in your future and nurturing your relationships. Thanks for listening to Invested Souls.